Hello everybody, have you ever been thinking of maybe moving to Sedona, Arizona, but wondering what the neighboring Verde Valley towns might look like? Or have you been thinking of moving to Verde Valley and wondering what is all the hype about Sedona, which is practically next door, and why is it worth so much more money? Well, you are in luck because today's video I created just for you. I'm going to talk about the differences between living in Sedona versus neighboring Verde Valley. So my name is Dawn Dickinson. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Arizona, and I do live in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, and most of my real estate business involves buying or selling homes in Sedona and Verde Valley, which is the neighboring towns of Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Clarkdale, Cornville, and Rimrock. Some of the towns are about 15 to 45 minutes apart. Say you are in West Sedona, you could probably make it to Cornville in 15 minutes. But for the most part, probably Cottonwood, say, to Sedona about 30 minutes away, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how spaced out they are geographically. In fact, I will throw up a little map so you can get a better idea. The channel Living in Northern Arizona, I just do videos every single week about the Northern Arizona towns and about real estate in general. So if you like this type of content, I hope you come back to me next time. So let's get started. So I myself live in Sedona, Arizona, and I do love it here. Now, to get a little bit more clear, I live in the village of Oak Creek, which is the unincorporated part of Sedona. So I am outside of the city limits. So just to give you an idea about the population size, the city of Sedona has a residence of about 10,000, less than 10,000. Let's see exactly, I wrote it down. There are 9,723 residents within the city limits, but you're going to go and expand out to the unincorporated areas, which would be like Village of Oak Creek, maybe out in Jack's Canyon, maybe in the Red Rock Loop. There are probably another 8,000 residents, so probably, about 16,000 total. Now, if you're looking at neighboring Verde Valley, you're going to have Cottonwood. Cottonwood, I just looked it up, about 12,000 residents. Camp Verde, about the same, 10 to 12,000 residents. Very small towns. Now, geographically, like I say, we're right next to each other. So if you're coming up from Phoenix and you're climbing over Mingus Mountain, then you come way down, and that's where you get to the 260, which is the start of Verde Valley, where you have Camp Verde on one side of the Interstate 17, spilling over to the west side of 17, and then you also have Cottonwood, Cornville. So there you have the lower elevation towns, which are about 3,300. So still 3,300 elevation, still way higher than Phoenix. You got cooler temperatures. And then as you climb north towards Flagstaff, you'll pass like Cornville and Rimrock on the other side, and then Sedona. Sedona, village of the Oak Creek, where I live, Sedona, about 4,500 above sea level. And if you take the 89A from like uptown Sedona all the way to Flagstaff, you're going to climb in elevation there, or again, if you're taking the Interstate 17, you're going to climb to about 7,000 foot elevation and you'll get to Flagstaff. So I'm going to start with a list of some of the high-level differences between living in Sedona versus Verde Valley, and then I'm going to go into some specific details on some of the items on the list. The very first, most obvious issue is the cost of living, the difference between Sedona and Verde Valley, and that is mostly due to the difference in the prices of homes. In the past, I used to say there was about 35% more to buy a home in Sedona than it would in the Verde Valley towns like Cottonwood or Camp Verde or Cornville, but I recently checked bestplaces.net. They are citing 53 to 57% more to buy a home in Sedona than, say, Cottonwood. I think that might be a little bit exaggerated, so I'm going to say 35 to 50% higher to live in Sedona versus Cottonwood. Now, what would justify that, you might be thinking, and let me just tell you, probably the biggest thing is better views. You have beautiful views in Sedona from just about every part of Sedona. You could get a view of the Red Rocks. Now, you may not get it from your own house, but if you're going to go out and take a walk around the block, somewhere you're going to see a nice view of the Red Rocks, and if you're going to get in your car car and go anywhere to do a chore. I'm going to go fill my car with gas. I'm going to get groceries. I'm going to go to Ace Hardware. I'm going to go to the office. You're going to have a beautiful drive that's going to be breathtaking. So not that you don't get good views in Verde Valley. In fact, there are some places in Cottonwood, Cornville, and even Rimrock that you can get a great panoramic view of the Red Rocks, but just know that they're going to be far in the distance. Basically, the big difference where you might get a view really close up of the Red Rocks. In fact, I'm going to show you a view of what it looks like out my window so you can get an idea of some of the views that you get. And I am in a very average size, average American house here in Sedona, and I still have a pretty decent view. The other thing is very important is you have a much lower crime rate, and I will get into some of those statistics. Lower crime rate in Sedona, and you're close to a lot of the stuff that people like to do. Of course, close to the views, close to the Red Rock trails, close to a lot of the activities. Sedona has a lot of spiritual activities, so close to all of those centers, close to the artist galleries if you're an artist, close to shopping and all sorts of the great fun activities. Now that there's different activities in Verde Valley if you like to go to the river and kayak and stuff, and there are trails there too, but again, the vibe of Sedona and the closeness to the views and the crime and all the stuff people like to do are what demands the higher price tag. Also realize that Sedona is a spiritual hub or a spiritual center of the entire world. People come here from the entire world because of the vortex and all the spiritual offerings and things to do. So that's another big draw here. And another thing is there are like-minded people. If you're into that kind of stuff, then chances are your neighbor could be into it too, and you might make a lot of friends because the people that you're living amongst are very like-minded and are into the same things that attracted you to move to Sedona in the first place. And then the last thing is you have a lot of older residents living in Sedona. A lot of people are either retired or pre-retirement. I moved here 53, 54 years old, I think, when I moved here, thinking that I'd like to retire here. I got about 10 years, 10, 15 years to work. And so they move here pre-retirement, or you have a lot of semi-retirement people here that are here. They could be retired, but they have jobs because they want to supplement their income. Maybe they work at the Ace Hardware. Maybe they work at the golf course. Maybe they are at one of the galleries. So they are working part-time because they don't need the high-paying corporate salary that they did a few years ago, but they still like to stay active and in the workforce. So again, if you are older, you're empty nester, Sedona is a really good place to live. Now, if you are younger and you have families, or you are still like working like a trade type job, Cottonwood, Verde Valley, you might feel more comfortable there because you're going to have more people living in your community that are similar to you, similar to age, and you might like it there. Now, another big draw to Verde Valley, not even price, but you may want a nice high-priced house because you could get more acreage, and there are a lot of people that like Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Cornville, even Rimrock because they have a horse. So it's not like you can't get a horse or have area for a horse in Sedona, but you're probably going to either be out in Jack Canyon, back in the Red Rock Loop, or maybe even up Dry Creek. There are areas that have horse property, but to buy a home on an acre with a big enough lot for a horse, you're going to be paying a pretty penny. Probably hard to get anything under $1.5 million where you can have a horse, but in the other towns, maybe 400,000. I'm just throwing that number out here. I didn't just look up listings before I did the video, but from my memory, that's about right. Also, more places in Verde Valley where you could have a horse, a donkey, a goat, a bunch of chickens. So if you like the rural lifestyle and you want a home on acreage, you want farm animals, you want pets, Verde Valley town's probably more attractive that. Now, the other thing is there's going to be less tourists in the Verde Valley towns, and that means there's going to be less traffic. Now, that doesn't mean that tourists don't come, stay in Verde Valley because it's cheaper, and then go do stuff in Sedona during the day. And that actually is a good plus to Verde Valley, right? You're living in Cottonwood, say, you're 30 minutes from Sedona, so you could live in a much more affordable home and yet still go to Sedona on the weekends and do all the fun stuff that you like to do. Now, another thing that's attractive about Verde Valley, let's say Cottonwood, is you got a lot of the big box stores there. You have a Home Depot there. You have a Walmart there. If you're going to go to a car mechanic, a tire store, probably going to go to the one in Verde Valley, even though there are. I just got my car. I had somebody hit and run on my car, and I took it to a great body shop in West Sedona. They did it fantastic job. I just got that yesterday, but there's probably going to be more options for businesses and stuff like that in Verde Valley. So just keep that in mind. You do have some views. Like I said, you can see a whole panoramic view of the Red Rocks from a distance if you don't mind looking from a distance. There are also more places that might have a good view of the creek. So a creek, a river view, that could be nice. And then again, more jobs that are not, hospitality type jobs. Like in Sedona, again, you have a lot of jobs that are in restaurants and hotels and even tour guide type stuff, shops. So you may have a better variety of jobs, or if you're still in working age in Verde Valley. Now, the downside, of course, is you're going to have a higher crime rate, and that does scare off a lot of older people. And now I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics on to back up what I came up with on this list. First, I'm going to give you some cost of living statistics. Now, I have a website I use frequently called bestplaces.net, where I look up specific data on the small towns. I'm going to use Cottonwood as a reference because most of the Verde Valley towns are going to have the same data as Cottonwood and then versus Sedona. So Cottonwood has a cost of living index of 114. So this cost of living index, bestplaces.net, puts it out. 100 is a national average. Arizona overall as a state about 106. So that means 6% higher than the rest of the country overall in Arizona. But Cottonwood, 114. That means it's 14% higher to live in Cottonwood than the rest of the United States. Now, always until last year, Sedona on bestplaces.net has been 141, which is on par with Scottsdale, Arizona. The same cost of living index as Scottsdale, Arizona. But something happened in 2024 where they screwed up and made a mistake, and they are showing Sedona at 114. Positively, that's incorrect. It's 141. They must have transformed the numbers. I don't know how to get them to correct that. But that's just saying that 41% more to live in Sedona than average U.S. cost. Now, the big bulk of that is going to be because of housing, right? Really groceries, gas. Gas is actually cheaper in Sedona sometimes than in Phoenix. It just kind of fluctuates a little bit. So your big cost of living thing in Sedona is going to be housing. Median home price in West Sedona, uptown, is probably about $1.5 million. Here in Village of Oak Creek, like $980 million, your median cost of living. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get something less. In fact, just last weekend, I showed a home in Village of Oak Creek here that was about $600,000. And it was a nice home, 1,500 square foot. Just need a little bit of TLC. In fact, actually in decent condition, it just looked like, 1979. So you can get homes for $600,000, but again, they're very uncommon. And a lot of the new people or new builders are wanting to build mansions. In fact, I just saw on Facebook, Toll Brothers is putting in a new community starting at $2.1 million. Like, we have a plethora of homes over $2 million, and yet that's what they want to build. They want to build more $2 million homes because I guess we don't have enough of them. But you can get a home for less than that. And like I say, the median sales point in Sedona city limits is about $1.5 million. And if you come in Village of Oak Creek, it's closer to $1 million. So cost of living by far is the bigger difference between Sedona versus the Verde Valley towns. Now let's talk about crime rate. Crime rate does scare off a lot of people. The national crime rate, so we're going to do some statistics. I'm going to look at violent crime versus property crime. And in Cottonwood, violent crime has a rating of 23.4, where the U.S. national average is 22.7. So Cottonwood slightly higher in violent crime. But if you look at Sedona, 13.8 is the violent crime index. So that's, like 10 points lower than the national average in Cottonwood. So pretty safe in Sedona. Not that there's no crime. I don't want you to think that, but I do always feel safe in Sedona. Now, when you talk about property crime, I see property crime in Cottonwood, and very consistent with some of the other towns, 51.5%. So property crime almost, quite a bit higher than the national average, which is 35.4. And in Sedona, property crime less at 27.7. So again, much better, favorable crime rate in Sedona than in the Verde Valley towns. Now, the median age in Cottonwood is 53.3, median wage in Sedona 58.5, and if you're going to go include Village of Oak Creek, it's slightly higher, probably about closer to 60 on the median age. So the big thing, of course, cost of living higher in Sedona, crime better in Sedona, median age higher in Sedona. got a different vibe of the people that live here, probably largely because of the age and maybe the wealth statistic. Probably have more families, family life, family activities in the Verde Valley towns. Of course, more of the people that are interested in farming, raising animals, and having homes on acreage are going to be in Verde Valley. So that is the big differences. Now, if you are thinking of moving to Sedona, and maybe you can't quite afford Sedona but would like to think of Cottonwood, or maybe can I show you some of the less expensive in Sedona homes? I am an active real estate agent in Sedona Verde Valley. I do a lot of business here, so if you ever wanted to reach out and talk to me about buying or selling a home in Sedona, I always put my contact information below in the description, and you can give me a call, text, or an email, and I will get back to you. Now, the channel is Living in Northern Arizona. I publish videos every single week on either details of these Northern Arizona towns or real estate in general, the real estate market nationally in general. So every week come back and I'm going to have a video on either of the Verde Valley, the Northern Arizona towns, or real estate in general. Again, my name is Dawn Dickinson. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please consider subscribing, because like I say, I put videos out every single week, and if you're looking for this type of information, that makes it easier to find and it makes it easier for other people to find. Subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you back here again next week.